Heather Lindsay here from Blissed Out Mums, and it's so good to be here with you today with this webinar that I've created especially for you on how to get your kids to listen and to cooperate. I'm thrilled that you're watching today. We all have amazingly busy and active lives, and I'm honoured that you took time out of your schedule to be on this training with the other amazing child-focused parents who want to really make a significant difference in their family dynamics. Now, the parenting and communication techniques and mindsets that I'm going to be sharing with you today, I use with my daughters every single day. And in fact, the techniques in this webinar and within the Communicating with Children program have helped me get complete control over the communication in my family, and we're all happier and more fulfilled than I could ever really imagine. So on this webinar, I'm going to be sharing with you some of the most important pieces of the Communicating with Children program, designed to help you to be able to effectively communicate with your children so that they listen, do what you need them to do without the arguments. Now, I want to make sure that this webinar is for you. So you're in the right place if you're a mum whose children aren't currently listening to it and it's becoming a problem for you and your family. You don't like having to repeat yourself or yell, but it ends up seemingly to be the only way to get anyone's attention, for anyone to listen and for anyone to do anything. You know, you've been trying a whole heap of different parenting techniques and success is short-lived or minimal at best. You know, you're tired of feeling frustrated and angry. You're ready to stop that worry cycle of if you're actually doing a good enough job as a mum. You want to have that cohesive family environment where everyone listens, communicates well, and gets the daily tasks of life done so that you can really spend that quality family time that you desire together. So if this sounds like you, totally excited and for you and for what you're going to learn with our time together today. Now, my personal desire is for you to have become this communication rock star because you easily communicate with your children, because you know the key techniques of how children listen and process information, which is quite different to how the adult brain works. Now, before we get into it all, because I know that you may be hearing me talk for the first time, I want to give you a bit of my personal story. So, first of all, my name's Heather and I'm a life coach, an NLP practitioner, a master practitioner in matrix therapies, including matrix therapies for children, and a registered nurse. I'm also a single mum to two beautiful girls. I created Blissed Out Mums and my motherhood coaching programs after recovering and thriving after having had severe postnatal depression with my youngest daughter. You know, I found that the traditional method of psychotherapy wasn't working anymore, and I wanted and I needed something more practical. And here's where coaching came in. So I chose to do more my training, as every single mum with two kids, one who was only 6 months at the time does. And as I was learning, I was implementing, and boy, did my life change. You know, suddenly, within a 6-week period, I was happy. I knew the type of person I wanted to be. I knew the type of mum that I wanted to be. I was stopping yelling. You know, my house got organised again. The shopping was done. We were eating the type of food that I wanted to be giving my children, you know, exercising, losing weight, sleeping well, full of energy, and looking good. I literally did a 180. Everyone was starting to comment, even friends who hadn't known me that long. And I was so proud of everything that I was achieving. So I had a beautiful light bulb moment one morning in the shower. I knew that there were mums out there who weren't happy, and I knew how to solve it. I had the solution. And so that's what I decided I was going to do with the rest of my life, and Blissed Out Mums was born. So over 2 years later, I've been able to share my knowledge and experience, my journey with thousands of mums. It has been amazing and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. Now, of all the mums who come to me asking for help to stop yelling at their children, there's one common factor. Well, actually two. First of all, you know, they love their children so much and they really do want to be the best mum that they can be. They're just not feeling they're at that space right now. Second of all, they really want and they need their children to listen to them. And so often it's this crucial component that isn't working. You start calmly asking the kids to do something. You probably say it a couple more times, but still no one seems to be listening and nothing seems to get done. It escalates and you lose it. You scream, yell, rant, rave, smack. I've heard it all. And after that comes the guilt. If only the kids had listened and done what they needed to do, then you wouldn't have had to yell. Simple. So I've realised that by being able to give parents the techniques and strategies to enable them to communicate effectively with their children, it is really one part of the puzzle towards creating a happy and calm household that mums are desiring. So what I've done is I've drawn on the discipline of NLP and the amazing matrix therapies designed by Pip McKay to create this phenomenal program. So the principles that I'm going to teach you today have enabled me to communicate with my highly empathetic and emotional firstborn without yelling, as well as understanding how to get my toddler to cooperate so we can do what we need to do and have plenty of time for fun. They really have done a tremendous service for me in my family, and I want you to be able to reap the same rewards. So, grab a pen, eliminate all those distractions to be fully present on this call. I want you to open your mind and your heart to a new way of communicating with your children. And I want you to be able to take what you learned today and use it right away so that you can have your children listen to you so you can stop the yelling. I also want to let you know that this call is a preview of my Communicating with Children program for those of you who really do want a deeper understanding and a more structured approach to what I'm teaching today. And I'll talk about that a bit later. So, let's go down to it. Now let's talk about language. Now language is the main tool that we use with our kids. Every time we open our mouth on a day-to-day basis, we are trying to influence our child, to change them, to instill a value or a belief, or literally just influence them to put their shoes on so we can go to school. And with your words, you either embed a positive or a negative frame of reference. Now, when you speak, you create a picture in your child's mind, and then they create a feeling in their body. Now, children will always move towards the picture that is there in their head. So, the ultimate key to communicating with children is to create a positive picture of what we want them to do and not what we don't want them to do. So before we go on any further, I just want to make this clear. As the person talking, it's your job or your responsibility to ensure that your message is being heard. And as the parent, it's even more your responsibility. We can't expect our children to be able to always understand what and why we're talking about it. There are lots of different ways that we can make sure that our message is going to be heard. I'm going to be teaching you 7 of them today. Now, not all of them work for the same situation, the same personalities, or for the different communication styles within parents or within children. You also may find that some of the phrases that you'll need to be using a bit more might actually feel a bit clunky to say at first. As it becomes easier and second nature, you'll experience the impact that they have on the quality of your communication. Now, by having good communication, you empower your child to act. That is, do what you need them to do in a kind, loving, and respectful way. And therefore you don't have to yell. And the benefit of this is that as you communicate in this way to them, they will actually learn to communicate to you in the same manner. And the earlier they learn these skills, the better. But it is never too late for them to start. So these language tools will take practice. They do work, and I'm here to support you throughout your journey. So, what are the 7? So the 7 language tools that can be used to create positive, empowered and a cooperative future between parent and child include using the word don't effectively, the use of agreement frames, The use of permissive language, so possibility rather than necessity. And this is really good because it helps to create motivation and enthusiasm. Using the words you and I effectively. How to reframe meanings, so creating a positive from a negative. Using the language of influence. And understanding and directionalizing questions. And this really is the language that either empowers or disempowers a child to act. So, let's get started. Language tool number 1, using the word don't effectively. Now, how often do you say don't to your child? I'm sure it feels like up to 100 times per day. Now, when you say the word don't, you actually create a picture in your child's mind of what you don't want them to do. And because we know that children move towards the picture that's in their mind, they do what you've just told them you don't want them to do, which is the exact opposite of what you want them to do. So let's explain this, and it's quite easy to grasp the concept. So if I say to you, don't think of a green tree, for you to make sense of what I've just said linguistically, your mind has to think of a green tree instead. And you'll be saying in your head, oh, I'm thinking of a green tree, but what do you want me to think of? You know, I haven't given you any direction. I haven't led you to where I want you to be. You know, so you don't know what to say or do or think or act, you know, depending on what the don't is referring to. So instead, you might, I might be wanting you to think of a pink hat when, you know, you end up going, oh, well, I'll think of a yellow tree. But how are you to actually know this unless I direct you to it? So what we want to do is to create a picture in your child's head of exactly what we want them to do or to say without actually saying the word don't. Now, in parenting, of course, you know, there are times that we have to say the word don't for safety's reason and for teaching. You know, if you absolutely have to say don't, then make sure that what you do is you give an alternative ending after creating the last picture in their head of what you want them to do. So let's look at some examples. Don't run on the road. Play on the grass, please. You know, don't stand too close to the oven. Stand over here, please. Or don't hit your sister. Use gentle touching, please. To help our children hear the message that we are trying to communicate, we must be clear and say what we want them to do. You know, children do not have the intellectual or neurological capacity to infer what we're meaning. And as a positive role model, as a positive parent, it's your responsibility to guide them. By being clear with what you want them to do, it decreases the chance of misunderstanding and therefore decreases the chance that you're going to start to fall into that spiral of feeling frustrated, cranky, and end up yelling. So, if we move on to tool number 2, so agreement frames. Now, everyone, whether they're a child, a teenager, or an adult, is happy when they are agreed with. You know, have you ever been around someone who just seems to disagree with everything that you say, time after time after time? And after a while, you either continually argue back with them or you just don't want to spend any more time with them. So, you know, it can be really upsetting. You know, being agreed with equals love at a higher level. And from a survival standpoint, being agreed with means that the tribe accepts me, which means that they love me and they won't throw me out, and then you'll have no food and then you'll die. So the agreement frames really are: I agree, I respect, I appreciate, and I hear. Now, agreeing with your child does not mean automatically doing what they want. It's about hearing what your child says and communicating it to them that they have been heard. You know, it really is important to respect children, because if children aren't respected, then they won't respect back. It's all about acknowledgement. your child can therefore go to sleep and think, my adult, my mum, my dad, agrees and respects me, and therefore they love me. That really is so important for a child's development. And if you want that cooperative and calm household, it's crucial. So how do we use it? Okay, so I agree it doesn't feel good to go to bed when we're still awake. And tomorrow when you wake up, you'll feel rested and we can go to the park. I hear that you want the lollipop now, and we're about to have some yummy lunch so you can have it after. I appreciate that you want to go to the park, and if you put your shoes on right now, we can go straight away. So can you hear the differences? Now note in each of the examples that I haven't used the word but, because it actually negates and dismisses what you say. So we always say the word and. Okay, language tool number 3. Necessity versus possibility. Now, the language of necessity can actually be heard as very negative, and it doesn't empower a child or anyone really to take action and do what you ask. Instead, it creates this resistance and quite often, the complete opposite of what you want to achieve. It doesn't work well with adults, so why we do it with children, I have no idea. Now, examples of necessity language: you have to, you must be, what you need is, you should try, it's impossible to, it's necessary to, you mustn't get. We've all heard this language. When was the last time someone used it with you? How did that work out when you were told what to do? No one likes it. When was the last time you did it to your child? How'd that work out? Especially if you've got a strong-willed child and you start telling them what to do, they're going to just dig in their heels and do the complete opposite. So what we want is we want to use the language of possibility, and this actually empowers our children. So, it helps them take action, decreases resistance, it's kind and respectful. And they're all crucial components of healthy parenting, which creates healthy, emotionally stable and secure children. So, what is possibility language? May, might, can, could. It's important, it's often useful, it's great too. You may find. So can you hear the difference? So using these phrases are a great way to stop feeling as if you're constantly negatively speaking towards your child, all that nagging. And they actually feel the difference too. So decreasing resistance increases the probability that you need to get done, that what needs to get done gets done. So examples of that is, it's important for us to brush our teeth at the end of the day so that we don't have holes in our teeth, rather than saying you must brush your teeth twice a day. Or, it's often useful to put sunscreen on before we go out to the park because then you don't get sunburnt, rather than you must put sunscreen on before you go outside, otherwise you can't go. You can hear the difference in the language, one very positive, one very negative. So let's move on to language tool number 4, using the words you and I effectively. Now, ultimately, this is actually simple, easy, win-win conflict resolution negotiating tactics, something that a fair majority of us know from business or work, and we may even use with our partners or husbands, but come to forget it when speaking with our children. Have you ever had someone come to you and say, what you need to do is, or you must, or you are doing that wrong? Being a mum, I'm sure you have. God knows that we've all had that unwanted parenting advice. We've all received it. And how do you feel when someone comes up to you and says, you must, or you? It's very negative. The word you is actually incredibly accusatory and assaultive and very forceful. It's not the best language to use for children because it doesn't increase cooperation and it doesn't foster a healthy relationship. And we want the opposite of this. We want and need our children to feel useful and significant, as this helps you gain cooperation. So when we talk, we stay eye focused and be honest with how we're feeling so that we can get our point across much more effectively and our children can hear what we need. So, I'm feeling really tired now, so I'd love for you to sit and quietly read a book. I find that if I don't brush my teeth, they go all furry and I have smelly breath. Or I find that eating all my vegetables first before they go cold makes them taste better. In each of these examples, you can see how the message gets across without that assaultive, forceful language. So, language tool number 5. Reframing meanings. Now, this really is a huge one in parenting. It's one that is very important because children have lots of assumptions. Basically A equals B. Mum yelled at me today. She doesn't like me. I was bad today equals Mum and Dad don't love me. Or Mum sent me to my room equals Mum is rejecting me. Now, being the adult and the parent in this situation, we know that in none of these examples does A directly equal B. But for a child, they don't have the neurological capacity to understand this. So we as the adult, as the parent, really have to reframe it to give it that different meaning, and often the more correct meaning. Now, for you to do this, you may have to mind read your child and understand where they're at before you reframe them. Just coming out and flipping it into a positive doesn't work. So this is where being a really connected parent is crucial. So let's reframe a few of these sentences. So A equals Z instead. So we say, Mum's sorry that she yelled at you today, and it's because I'm so tired. You're not a bad boy, and hitting behaviour is not acceptable. Can you see the difference? I do a lot of reframing, and reframing in our general life is awesome. And I love this quote by Dr. Seuss, which is, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And for us, it's even more effective if we can reframe complete negatives into positives. My clothes are too tight equals that's great because it means I have enough food to eat. Or my child is complaining about doing the chores. That's great because it means that she's home and not on the street. And saying that's great out aloud might not be appropriate. It doesn't always create rapport, especially if you're talking to someone directly. So it's something you usually just say in your head. We want to shine the light of consciousness onto positive and away from negative, because we want to change emotions of the now, the future, and so that they can be different in different situations. Now, encouraging different thinking patterns, thinking outside the box and reframing, actually creates and grows neural pathways. And we know that the more neural pathways an individual has, the more intelligent they are. So is intelligence something that you want to foster for your child? Sure it is. Well, this is a wonderful way to encourage it. The more we talk with this positive language, reframing and teaching our children how to communicate effectively at young ages, particularly between the years of 0 to 7, it's more likely that they will take these skills through their adult lives, into school years and on into the workforce. It's really essential for you to start getting control of the communication between you and your child, because it does benefit you, your family as a whole, and your child's whole life. So, before we cover the magic influence statements and how to direct particular questions to empower your child to do what you want them to do, I want to lay out the complete plan on how you can be that communication superstar with your child and get them to listen to you. So, What I'm about to tell you is really the most important thing that I want you to get about the art of communicating with children. So there are 3 things that you need to know to really be able to become that communication superstar, that super mum in your own right, and have your children listen to you and do what you need them to do. First of all, we need to understand how your child perceives their world. Not your world from an adult's perspective, but from a child's perspective. You know, the importance of developing rapport with your child in the moment of communication. And of course, the individual communication style of your child. Now, everything else is secondary to these 3 components. And that's why so many of my Communicating with Children program graduates become extremely successful mums, because they learn to communicate in a way that gets them what they need without having to become frustrated and yelling. Therefore, they don't have that unhappy, uncohesive household. Therefore, they have what they want, and they can become calmer and more fun and engaged mums. So what I've done is I've created the program that simply takes you through and teaches you how to implement exactly what you need to do for you to be masterful at these 3 components. Now, so you can see what I'm talking about, I'd like you to come with me right now and visit www.blissedoutmums.com.au/CCP, and it's up on that screen there in front of you. So, first, I've completely deconstructed the entire communication process with your child, illustrating why your child doesn't listen, opens up your eyes to how you can overcome this. So this is so that you have, you from the first moment of the day through every meal times to the ever challenging bedtime routine, homework for school-aged children, you'll never wonder what to say or do with your child to get things done. Imagine this, how would it be like for you if your children heard what you said when you spoke? What would that feel like for you? How would your family be different? And how much more would you be able to achieve? So here's what my communicating formula will show you. So first of all, how the words and phrases you use make an immense impact on what your children hear, and they'll be empowered to do what you need them to do. Understanding what developmental age your child is at and why communication is different at each level. You can't talk to your 7-year-old the way you talk to your 3-year-old. And the difference between communication styles between boys and girls, and that's a big one. Then, of course, I show you how to observe your child so that you can understand how they are perceiving their world, and this gives you vital keys on how to talk to them. We then go on through the module of developing rapport with your child. Now, it might sound simple, but if you don't have rapport with them, they won't listen to you without you yelling. And then that final bit is my favourite part, because, it's like having insider information on how your child's brain works, their individual communication style. I'm also going to show you how to approach communicating with children who also have learning issues, so that it helps you prevent both of you getting frustrated. By the way, I do know that my Communicating with Children program is one of the best things that I've created. It's a program that really does set a high bar and delivers the best value to mums. It's not a bunch of random materials. It's incredibly well organised and an easy to follow system for you to follow step by step. I virtually take you by the hand, show you exactly how to effectively communicate with your children, and you learn how to do that in a consistent way. Now, I want to talk about the investment into the Communicating with Children program. So at this point, I know you can feel what absolutely transformational impact the program can have on you and your family. And at a simple $97, it is an excellent value, and you do get lifetime access to the private membership site and all of the resources. Now, it's important for me because it's my mission to help mums become calmer and patient, and I really do know that this is the first step on that journey. So, please head over to www.blissedoutmums.com.au/CCP and hit the register now button. Okay, let's talk about some more language tools. Language tool number 6. So these are the magic influence statements. And these statements are based directly from NLP and what are called Milton models, which is ultimately the language of influence, which is derived from the world of hypnosis. Now, there are 7 of these, and many of them you would actually already recognize, as I'm sure you've used them before. Now, don't mind the funny names of them. A professor of linguistics named them back in the 70s. It's not the name that matters, instead it's the technique. So, they are mind reads, double binds, conversational postulates, tag questions, lost performatives, pacing current experiences, and selection or restrictional violations. So, let's go through them quickly. So, mind reads. This is about mind reading and leading the child to a solution. And when you're actually in rapport with a deep level of understanding with your child, we can really lead them in the direction that we want them to go. So we make it positive and basically preempt a problem. So I know it's not easy for you to read, and we're going to try this new game to help you. I know you don't want to eat your fruit, and I've cut it up to look like a rocket ship. And it will be easy for you to say, I know, because you're mum. You're the expert on your child, and you know your child at that closest level. Double binds. This works for children up to about 7 or 8 years of age. Basically, you give them 2 alternatives. You want them to choose one, but both end up at the same place. And it gives that illusion of choice. And when they have this illusion, they're more likely to do what you need them to do because they feel empowered and respected because they got to choose the decision. So, you can go to bed now or after Curious George. Now, your child will probably choose after Curious George, but she's empowered by making that decision. And it's really important that you actually hold them to the agreement. And this can be a starting point for negotiations, but you agree on that beforehand. Okay, conversational postulates. So this is where what you're saying sounds like a question, but it actually isn't. And this is based on the language of hypnosis. And this is one of the first times where gender comes in. So, can you get ready now, please? You'd say to your daughter. Or, would you get me the bag, please? You'd say to your son. And if you were speaking directly to both of them, let's do this together. Now, can is better for girls because they tend to be inferential listeners, whereas for boys, would is better because they're much more literal. So you need to be more direct with your words and say what you want. You know, if you say to a boy, can you get ready now, please? They'll say yes, and then keep going on what they're doing because all you've asked them is, can they get ready now? Not, would they get ready now? Okay, tag questions. This is fun, isn't it? Now, to help motivate our children and to get them to do what we want and need them to do, we must remove the negative from a situation, displace resistance, and get them in a yes mindset. Now, this doesn't work on a single incident, but it is one of those things that with regular use is very effective. So, putting away the toys, for example. Let's put the toys away together. This is fun, isn't it? Then the next time, hey, remember how much fun we had putting the toys away? Let's do that again. This decreases the resistance on the second instance, and they'll be more likely to help you tidy up without that complaining. Lost performatives. So this is about embedding into the unconscious mind the positive. It's fun to learn like this, isn't it? Now, this is really good for children when you're doing homework especially in those early years when you want to create a positive foundation for learning so that they continue that level of motivation as they go through the school years. And when you say it's fun to learn like this, isn't it? What their unconscious mind actually hears and processes in that sentence is it's fun to learn, because the unconscious mind doesn't process the negative, isn't it? Okay, pacing current experience. Now, this is the one I've used with my eldest a lot, especially, we moved houses, she's had to move preschools again. There've been lots of changes in her little life. It gives the child resources for the current experiences and future paces them. I know things haven't been easy moving school, and when you've gone a little bit longer, you'll have all these new friends to invite to your party. This was really important for me to use because it's demonstrated that respect for her, for where she is now and how she's feeling, as well as reframing it. Selectional restrictional violations. So this was first described to me as a way to help children and their imagination for creative storytelling at school, but I've actually begun to use it in many other ways. It's great for learning, and it gives human characteristics to objects, which helps stimulate children to think. And I like to use it with my eldest when I'm helping her tidy up her room. Oh, Teddy feels lonely on the floor under the bed. He'd much rather sit up next to Bella Bunny and give her a cuddle where it's warm. And then we can go into a little bit of play acting. It creates fun, it creates cooperation. She's much more easier than me saying, can you pick up Teddy and put him up on the bed? Okay, so language tool number 7. Understanding and directionalizing questions. What's the purpose of? This finds the intention or the root cause of a behaviour. What specifically? Finds a purpose. And how do you know? Finds the reason for a belief. When we say why to our child, it's not useful. It cements a justification, often a negative belief or action, and ultimately doesn't result in a resolution to a problem. Why did you tip the paint on the floor? I don't know. Versus, what was the purpose of putting the paint on the floor? I wanted to have fun on the tiles. Or you see the difference? And it's great because here we can see how we link everything together. We change the question that we're asking our child. We take them in a different direction of thinking. We reframe them. Then we want to encourage communication by saying, tell me about it, and open up those lines of communication. We're present with our children and sit with them, if there are negative emotions or positive. We validate their experiences, acknowledge and understand them before we go on and give a solution or consequence, alternatives, and some other disciplinary method. Okay, well, we've reached the end of the webinar. What an amazing session. So I hope that you've gained valuable insight and information into communicating with your kids. And I really would love for you to be able to join me in my Communicating with Children program. So remember that the website to join me is www.blissedoutmums.com.au/CCP. Remember, you can connect with me on social media. I'd love for you to join me on Facebook, or simply say yes and register for an introductory coaching session on my website. I am here to help you be that type of mum that you want to be, that you deserve to be, and that your children deserve to have as a parent. Look, it's been great. I look forward to helping you again in the future. I do want you to believe in yourself. I want you to help understand that communication is simply just a skill, and that I know that you can get the skill handled, and it makes all the difference in the world. So I'll say bye for now, and I look forward to seeing you in my programs or in my one-on-one coaching soon. Have a beautiful day. Bye.